I'd like to call to order this January 22nd, 2024 reorganization and regular meeting of the Township of Morris Board of Adjustment. Statement of adequate notice in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act.
Bear with me.
I don't think that's me.
Sorry.
I'm off.
Statement of adequate notice has been made in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act. And statement certifying the same has been made. Please join me for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, I will ask Mr. Oler to please administer the oath of allegiance and the oath of office to Mr. Paul Woodford.
Raise your right hand, please. Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and I will bear faith
and I will bear faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments
and to the government
established in the United States
established in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
So help me God.
So help me God.
And the oath of office, I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties of the office of Board of Adjustment,
all the duties of the office of the Board of Adjustment,
regular member,
regular member,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congrats.
Thanks.
I'll be back.
3 years back.
Welcome back, Mr. Woodford.
Okay.
I will do roll call now. Mr. Goldberg,
Here.
Ms. Rothman,
Here.
Mr. Trachtenberg,
Here.
Mr. Schuster,
Here.
Mr. Benoit,
Here.
Mr. Kramer,
Here.
Mr. Woodford,
Here.
Mr. Oler,
Here.
Mr. Hanson.
Here.
United States here, Piano here. At this time, I will entertain nomination for Chairman of the Board of Adjustment for the year 2024.
I'd like to nominate Paul Woodford.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations? Can I have a second?
Second.
You had second already.
Oh, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
So move, Mr. Chair. You may have your chair.
You know what's going on with the chairs.
Okay.
All right. Next order is the selection of a vice chairperson. Do I have any nominations?
I nominate Lee Goldberg.
I have a second.
Second.
Okay. I have Samantha and/or Andrew Trachtenberg. Any other Mr. Trachtenberg?
Okay.
Any other nominations? If not, may I have a roll call, or not a roll call, but a vote as to the selection of Lee Goldberg as vice chairman.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. Next, we have several resolutions. First being the designation of Richard Oler as legal counsel. Let's do a roll call on this.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions about the resolution? If not, Sonia, can you have, please call the roll?
Mr. Goldberg,
Yes.
Ms. Rothman,
Yes.
Mr. Trachtenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. Benoit,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Woodford.
Yes.
So move.
Thank you, everyone.
Next, the resolution designating Paul Phillips as the planning consultant. Any questions about the resolution? If not, Ms. Santiago, can you please,
We need a motion.
can I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Thank you.
Are we doing
All in favor?
it?
We doing all in favor?
Can we do all in favor? Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is the resolution designating Joseph Fishinger as the traffic consultant. Any questions on the resolution? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move it.
Have a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is the designation of Christopher Melick as the licensed land surveyor for this board. Any
I'll move that as
questions?
well. I'll move that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we have special appointments,
No, we have the,
the meetings. Yes, we have the resolution for the meetings for the year 2024 and for January of 2025. Any questions? Please note that in April, it is the 5th Monday of the month. I have a motion.
Motion.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Next, we have a resolution for the designation of the official newspapers of this board. Any questions on this? If not, can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, what do we have next?
yeah, we're going with the,
Okay, professional appointments for the year 2024.
Mhm.
So we have David Hanson as board engineer. Listed up by motion.
You could do all of them. Assistant engineer, I mean, alternate engineer would be Jim Slate
Jim Slate,
and Bernard Singer.
Bernard Singer,
Mhm.
and Sonia Santiago as the board secretary. Any-
With a pleasure.
Thank you, thank goodness. Yes, move to all,
Motion.
to approve all those appointments?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You're back, Sonia.
Job security.
Next, moving to our regular meeting. First resolution is that of BA 18-23. Mr. Oler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution is a memorializing resolution with respect to the application filed by Christopher White. Mr. White applied to this board for permission to remove an existing 8-foot by 10-foot shed and replace it with a 10-foot by 18-foot shed in the rear yard, creating a rear yard setback to the new shed of 5 feet where a minimum setback of 25 feet is required, a side yard setback of 5 feet where 20 feet is required, and creating a combined side yard setback of 15.13 feet where 50 feet is required. That property is at 17 Normandy Boulevard in the RA 15 Single Family Zone District. And for the reasons set forth in the resolution, it was conditionally approved with our standard conditions.
Okay. Any questions on this resolution? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the application in line with this resolution.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Santiago.
Mr. Goldberg,
Yes.
Mr. Trachtenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. Woodford.
Yes.
So moved.
Next resolution is on BA 21-23 for Michael Locke, who applied to the board for permission to permit a 6-foot by 21-foot expansion of an existing non-conforming garage to create a 21-foot by 22-foot garage, which required several variances, including side yard, rear yard, combined side yard, impervious coverage, building coverage, and the expansion of a non-conforming structure. For the reasons that were set forth in the resolution, that application was conditionally granted with our standard conditions, and the property is at 5 Sherman Place in the RA7 zone.
Okay, any questions on this resolution? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve resolution.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stackenberg. Ms. Santiago?
Mr. Goldberg,
Yes.
Mr. Trachtenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. Woodford.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay. You want to make an announcement on the Ewing
Yep.
matter?
So in the event there's any members of the public here, we do have some correspondence from applicant Michael Ewing from his attorney indicating that they have requested to be carried from tonight's hearing into a date when the board can hear it. They were requesting February. Sonia, I think our February agenda is full
Yes,
already.
yes, it is.
What would be the next available date, Ken?
That would be March 25th.
March 25th. Is that agreeable to the board?
Yes. Do you need any kind of requirements for an extension on that?
Sonia, are we okay with time?
Yes. for now. Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
So then, for any members of the public who might be here regarding Michael Ewing's application on 40 Springbrook Road, that application is not being heard this evening. It will be carried to March 25th. There'll be no further notices to you from the applicant.
All right. And next we have BA-15-23.
Mr. Chair, I need a moment.
Okay,
Be right back.
all right.
You can get it started, I guess.
Well, why
I
don't you come
will
on,
listen to testimony.
why don't you come on up and get set up?
They're ready to go.
I need to turn their mic.
Can you turn on your microphone, please? Just push the button. There you go. You have the green light of it. Mr. Brodin, you could use that one too if you need to address the exhibits. Okay. You know what? Let me go turn on the other one.
Mr. Kramer has returned and we're ready to start. Good morning, Ms. Cowley. Good morning, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Congratulations on your reappointments. Simone Cali, Cali Law LLC, on behalf of the applicants, the Bertrams.
Why don't you give us a short review as to where we are and what you propose to do tonight?
You got it. As the board may recall, we were here back on October 23rd, where you heard from our two witnesses. The applicant is proposing a two-story addition to the house located at 8 Hillview Terrace. You heard details as to the design proposal from Jeff Rotting. And then we brought up our planner to go over the planning proofs. And this is where we stopped. We were concerned with a lot of the questions from the board members requesting information as to the neighborhood and how our proposal fits with the neighborhood. So what we've done since October was our experts have done the research, pulled data, and we plan to show the board this evening how our proposal does in fact fit with the character of this neighborhood. Both of our experts are back this evening. I plan to brief and call them in order. First, Mr. Rotting is going to discuss his findings and show the board some exhibits, and then we will conclude with Mr. Ricky, who will continue his planning proofs. Unless there's any preliminary questions, we can jump right into it. Mr. Rotting was sworn in at the last meeting.
Yeah, but we'll do it again. New year, new day.
You got it.
Would you stand up, please, Jeff? You solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you.
Sorry, I gotta read this.
I'd like to do a little bit of housekeeping first, and that is, there was a question that came up about the size of the first floor of the home being a little bit oversized. We had about 1,500 square feet or so on the first floor level. And as you recall, it was going to be a first floor, one-story living environment for my client's elderly mother initially, and then ultimately they'll probably move in the house themselves. Just to describe the first floor again, the only thing on the first floor is the living room, kitchen, a breakfast area, a laundry room, and a master suite. In addition to that, there's a garage and a wraparound porch that constitutes about 700 square feet of the 1,500 square feet that we show on the plan. So over half of that is non-living space. So it certainly is not an expansive first floor living. It's quite modest, actually, if we consider the size of the house. And the balance of the square footage is on the second floor. So we feel it's very appropriate in size. Sonia, can I ask to get the slides up?
Yes. Jack?
So in response to your concerns about the rest of the area and the neighborhood, we had engaged a aerial survey from DPK Consulting. They flew the immediate surrounding. What you see on the board there is an exhibit showing 58 lots, and that's the extent of what this area coverage could handle at that point.
Hey, Jeff, before you keep going, I just want to see where we left off, exhibit numbers. Yeah, we're going to mark that. I don't think we marked any.
I don't
I don't think we did either. No.
Okay,
We're
So-
speaking right to the plan that we have.
so then we're going to mark that as exhibit A1, and just for description, Jeff, would you just describe it, title it?
And if you'd like, I have 4 exhibits, very similar. So this one being A1, we called it drawing ZA1. This is an exhibit which shows the surrounding properties and shows the fully compliant lots, meaning lots that meet the bulk standards within the RA15 zone within this area here. So the 5 highlighted lots that you see on the property, see on the exhibit, are the only lots that comply to the bulk setbacks within this zone in this neighborhood.
So 5 out of 58?
5 out of 58, so about 8.5% or so are compliant to the full extent of the zone in this neighborhood. If we go to the next exhibit, it's exhibit ZA2.
So I'm going to call that A2 for
Two.
our purposes, and that's ZA2?
Yep.
Okay, and again, just give me what
So
that is.
ZA2 is an exhibit that shows the lots that comply to the lot area. The zone requires a 15,000 square foot minimum lot area. Within the 58 lots shown, only 13 of the lots comply to the to the lot area. And that's about 22.5% or less than a quarter of the 58 are compliant to the lot area. If I go to Exhibit 8, ZA3, we can label that A3.
Yep. A3, yeah.
A3. This shows front yard setback compliance. There are 37 lots that are predominantly are in the front yard setback, which you see.
Say that again differently.
Yeah, okay.
37 lots
37
comply?
lots that encroach upon the front yard setback. They're and physically are predominantly within the front yard setback. There are 10 of those lots, the darker shade blue you see on the screen there on ZA3, that are wholly in the front yard setback. So the front yard setback is behind the house. So it's a 50-foot setback, which really isn't set up well in this zone. And that represents almost 63% of the lots are predominantly in the front yard setback, but there's another 13 of those, or 86.5% are not compliant to front yard setbacks within the 58 that are there. So it's
You just run those numbers again?
sure. You have 37 in total that are predominantly in the front yard setback, 10 of which are wholly in the front yard setback. And there's another 13 in violation of the front yard setback. And that brings it to like,
When you say in violation,
Yeah.
meaning it encroaches on the front yard setback.
but is that part of the 37?
No, there's an
So-
additional 13 on top of that.
So there's 10 that are wholly in the front yard setback, 37 that are substantially encroaching on it,
Right.
And
there's another
13
there's
that-
another 13 that don't meet it.
don't meet
Top
it,
of that.
but they sort of edge their way in.
Right.
Okay.
So there's 86% of those 58 lots are non-compliant relative to the front yard setback. And then my final exhibit, which is A4, shows and this is ZA4, labeled A4. This shows the lots that are over the 45% impervious coverage. There are 5 of them that are over 45%, one of which is 52% or so. But our lot there is highlighted in the green. The other 4 that you see there are over the coverage percentage. And I should say these are approximate numbers, but I'm told that the aerial is within 4 or 5 feet accurate. So it's significantly accurate in my opinion. So 5 of the 58 or 8%, 8.5% are non-compliant to the 45% maximum coverage. And we're at our proposal is at 48.5%. So we're 3.5% over the required coverage. That's what we're asking for. We're going to have these exhibits available for the planner to provide as proofs as well. But as you can see from the aerial, most of these lots are similar in nature and non-compliant to both standards of the ordinance, as we are requesting relief as well.
So right now, your proposal is 48.5% coverage, is that correct?
That's correct.
And how many square feet would you have to remove to get it down to the 45 that is permitted?
We would have to remove 227 square feet.
Is there any place in this design that would allow you to make any type of,
I'm sorry, Mr.
Reduction.
Chairman. Could you repeat the question again? I want to be sure I understood.
that you'd have to reduce the square footage by 227 square feet in order to comply with the maximum permitted improved coverage? Is that correct?
Yes,
statement?
that's correct.
227 on the first floor, not
On
combined.
the whole footprint?
The footprint.
On the lower level, yeah, because it's coverage. Well, it's on the whole lot. So, we could remove the turnaround at the end of the driveway Do we have our plans still, Sonia, or is it,
I'm sorry?
the original architectural plans? Do you have those as well, or
I thought I did.
From the first meeting.
from the first meeting?
From the first meeting?
Yeah, our plan.
Architectural plans?
Yeah,
Yeah.
to put up.
The
Okay.
cover sheet.
The cover sheet?
Yeah, that's good with this, with the site plan on. If you recall, on the right-hand side of the home, it was a long extended driveway that's pre-existing. A long
Right.
extended driveway that goes down and enter the garage from the rear of the main dwelling. There's a tail on the end of that road that provides for a turnaround out of the backup area, turnaround out of the garage. If that went away, it would constitute that would get rid of the 227.
Yeah, I think we should look at that so we can determine whether that's feasible or is that going to be like mud all over the place.
Well, no, it wouldn't be pavement, it would end up being grass, but the problem would be one of logistics. It is a narrow side yard, and if somebody's using the driveway, they would have to either go in the garage or block the driveway for another car to get in. And this affords essentially a parking space at the tail end of the driveway, so you can use the driveway and the garage without blocking the road. So it's a little bit of a hardship had we try to get rid of that. The other thing we could do is lose the wraparound porch aspect of it, but we feel that that's part of the character that makes it
Right.
fit into the neighborhood. Because right now, if you recall the original pictures, there was a jalousie, a closed-in porch that really was unattractive. And
Right.
My client really wants to make this fit and provide a nice wraparound porch on it. So if you look to the lower left of the plan there, you'll see that there's an extension that goes almost all the way back to the rear property line that affords one car to be able to sit there and get out of the way of another car coming in on the left-hand side.
Board members, any feelings about the rear parking space, basically? Is that a way to justify
Turnaround parking area.
turnaround parking area? Or are we good with the 48.5? Because we're gonna have to, if we want to cut something, we should discuss it with the applicant as to what they want to do and whether they want to just not do anything and just put it up for a vote. But we have to give them that right.
With a constrained sort of property setup, I mean, I don't think it makes sense to sort of have them, lose that macadam there to be able to park a car and make it a usable sort of normal flow and it is a constrained lot. So I personally don't think that's an issue.
Okay. Any other people want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I think you don't want to trim there. I'm wondering, could you take a couple feet off the porch front and side?
In order to comply, we would have to lose the entire wraparound portion of that porch. We would be left with a little covered set of steps in the front. So if they have the whole setup there, maybe we could look at the elevations. But the wraparound porch we thought was the key to the aesthetic of this house. The other thing I should have noted too is that the distance between our home, this home here, and the neighboring home to the left, as you're looking at it from the street, is in excess of 60 feet. And most of the homes in this neighborhood are within 20 feet of one another, if you look at the zoning map. So there's plenty of room to accommodate visually the massing of this house. We did try to keep the roof lines down lower too. You'll noted in the original plan, we went with lower plate heights in a lot of instances. So we did try to play the massing as far down as possible.
Board members, any questions? Any further questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
Is it your proposal to combine these into one lot?
No, sir. No, we're not. It's a 65-foot lot that we're remaining at 65. But they were originally subdivided, if you recall the last testimony. The property line had shifted.
The previous drawings you showed of the 58 lots and the different categories that are non-compliant. Do you have any of those showing this house with the improvements in relation to the other houses?
Only, well, it's gone. Only the survey that we have there, that you saw on the screen. So.
I mean, I found that to be very helpful. I thought if you had your house with the improvements with all the other houses, it'd kind of be easier to see.
It would be similar to the house we have on the left of us, with the exception of the garage, which is shown detached. Could we go back to exhibit ZA1?
ZA, oh, okay, hold on.
Just make it- There's a house immediately to the left of us that, if you looked at the massing of the house and the freestanding garage and essentially attach those, that would be the size of that same footprint. So you see the green lot there on exhibit ZA4
Let me bring it up here.
or ZA3, same thing, green. Just to the right of that in this plan, if you were to attach that detached garage there, that would be essentially a similar massing to what we have on our lot.
I'm sorry, so now I have it up. If you were to do what?
So if you look at the screen there next to the green, if you were to attach the garage to the house on the lot to the right of us, the massing of the house itself would be similar to what we have on our lot, what we're proposing.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Get carried away.
That's what I was going to say.
Any other board members with questions?
I just have a question about the, in terms of, trying to get within the allowable coverage for the first floor bathroom, showing, I believe, is that sort of just like a giant tub or a giant?
There's a tub and a shower stall. Yeah, there's a soaking tub and a shower stall.
How much, if that, and it's showing there 18 feet, I guess, from the width, well, I guess it's a total of 34 feet from the wall of the bedroom back. So if
Right, I looked at that.
if pulling that bathroom in, I mean, like if it's a 2-story addition, you pulled it in 3 feet, would that give enough square footage?
Well, it's really only the square footage on the first floor that's accountable here. So if we have to pull it in, we have to get the whole 227 out of the first floor.
Oh, out of the first floor, okay.
So the problem would be if we try to go, say, across the back of the house, we'd have to lose about 4 feet of the back of the house to make that work.
Gotcha.
And that would render the garage useless.
Gotcha, yeah, okay, all right, thank you for clarifying.
Board members, any other questions? Mr. Hanson, any questions? Any members of the public have any questions of this witness? Please come up to the microphone and identify yourself and give your address.
Not yet.
Not comments yet. Questions. All right. Okay,
I have a question, I'm sorry. I'm
okay,
looking
go
at
ahead.
this.
Sure.
The garage doors open to the rear property, right?
They actually open to the side. They open to the property on our right.
This is to the side,
That's the side.
okay. And that's. Mhm.
So that turnaround becomes quite important if you think about the depth there. We only have about 20 feet or so. So to be able to pull back into that portion and pull out.
Yeah, you might have to do a couple of,
Right.
Yeah, you can't
It's,
do that.
it works, but it's tight.
right.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from board members? Based on that question, is there any member of the public with questions? Close the public portion.
Thank you.
Next witness.
Thank you. Paul, you're going to be sworn in again. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Ricky. Would you remain standing? Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. And just for the record, please state your full name.
Paul Ricky, RICCI.
Thank you.
Paul, in light of the exhibits that we prepared for this evening, why don't you go through your planning proofs again and please refer to those exhibits as needed.
Sure. If the board recalls, I provided full planning testimony last time, and I was going to, summarize some of my conclusions and embellish based on the new information. A couple points the board likely recalls is that the minimum lot size for the district here is 15,000 square feet. And here we have an existing lot that's 6,500 square feet. So it's a property that's, however it came to be, it exists today. And with that said, it's my opinion that there needs to be appropriate standards for this lot moving forward, given the fact that it does have a high degree of nonconformity. Today, if you looked at the zone plan, this lot is afforded a building square footage of 375 square feet if it met all the setback requirements for the zone. What I discussed last time is you do have other districts in the town, and I talked about your RA7 district, right? That district requires a lot that's slightly larger, 7,500 square feet, which is roughly 15% larger. And this application would adhere to all the requirements of that zone, with the exception of the front yard setback, which is non-conforming today, and it's being changed within 1.32 feet of his existing condition. And here, the applicant is opening up the porch. We think it's a nice embellishment to the house. I personally like what Mr. Alding has done with the structure and how he's broken the structure up. Doesn't result in creating a lot of mass from the street. He turned the garage door, which you don't see the garage door from the street. So architecturally, the home is very nicely, very tastefully done, for sure. So when we speak to the intent and purpose of the zone plan, where you allow this size lot elsewhere in the township, this application conforms. So I thought that spoke to the intent and purpose of the zone plan and why this would not result in a substantial departure. The board asked some additional questions regarding some additional properties. I think that speaks more to the character of the area and that whether an application will negatively impact the public good and the character of the area. And I heard the testimony from Mr. Alding that showed a large degree of nonconformity. He said that 20% of the lots don't meet the minimum lot size requirements. These are approximate percentages based on his numbers. 22.5%, only 22.5% comply with the minimum lot width requirement. Only 10% of the lots complied with the required front yard requirement. And he said that only 4 lots or 7% of the properties are fully compliant with the district standards, if I got that correctly. But nonetheless, it was a very low number in total. At block 7310 lot 18, if I can bring the exhibit up, there's a lot with a building coverage right at the intersection of Hillview Terrace and you say Fanick, correct? Fanick Road? I think I pronounced it wrong last time, right?
Which sheet? Which
If we pull up at the intersection of Hillview Terrace and Fanick, on the opposite side of the subject property is a corner lot.
Number 4.
And that property has a building coverage of 33.9%. It has impervious coverage of 49.3%. Front yard is 17.54 feet, a rear yard of 10.64 feet, and a side yard of 8.29 feet. So there's a lot in the immediate area that has conditions that are substantially more non-conforming than the subject property. For that reason, the testimony provided by Mr. Alding, We don't believe that this property as proposed is out of character in the area. We believe it's been architecturally, it's a custom home designed by Mr. Rawlding that could be harmoniously integrated to this area. It's broken up nicely. The wraparound porch and the side-facing garage, I think are very tastefully done architectural features, and ones that would be a benefit rather than a detriment to the community. That's.
Board members, any questions? Okay. Mr. Hanson, any questions?
No.
Any members of the public with questions of this witness? Close the public portion. Ms. Kelly,
Thank you.
anything else?
Mr. Chairman, give me one moment.
That doesn't really side yard setback. Rear yard setback.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes our presentation this evening. I think from the October meeting and this evening, you heard testimony that the design is appropriate, the size certainly.
Well, before we go through your summation, does any members of the public wish to comment on this application? Your name and your address, please.
Sharon Varnelis, 5 Hillview Terrace.
Would you spell your last name, please?
V as in Victor, Arnelas,
And your address again?
5 Hillview Terrace.
And would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that any statements you make to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Can you just tell us where you live in relation to this property?
I live directly across the street.
Okay.
Yeah, I face, my husband is also here, John Baldwin. We face that property fully. We've lived there for 32 years. We're the longest term people on the block. We welcome this addition. The house has been an eyesore forever. The front porch they mentioned now is just, it's awful looking. It's terrible. It's not pretty. We've reviewed the plan. I've reviewed the plans, and I'm very much for this. What else did I want to say? It's going to be beautiful. It's a dead end. You don't get drive-by traffic, so nobody's even going to see much of this house. What else? It's a very mixed neighborhood, like you mentioned. Doesn't seem like a lot of things conform. So every window on our house faces this property. So we were really for it. I don't know if you go down and do you actually look at these places?
Yes, we do.
You do. So you've been on the street?
Yes, we have.
Yeah, we're the house right across the street. It pretty much looks to me like a vacant lot in the middle between their beautiful house, which they've already redone, and the one they purchased for their mom.
Board member. Okay,
Thank you.
Any other members of the public wish to speak? Come on up. Your name and address, please.
Michelle Foley, 49 Fanick Road.
Ms. Foley, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that any statements you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do,
And is it Foley?
yes.
Thank you.
My property is directly behind the lot in question,
I'm sorry again, and your address again?
49 Fanick.
Thank you.
We've lived there for over 20 years. There is an existing garage structure on the back of the lot that once that's removed, that will be a great improvement. Our backyard, we can see all of the back of this house. I think the plans are appropriate and the visual aspect of it will be greatly improved. I ask that the board approve these plans. Even the garage, that it's not facing the back of the property is acceptable to us as well. It will greatly improve the visual effect. And I think that's it.
Okay, thank
Board
you.
members, any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public wish to speak? If not, I'll close the public portion. Now, Ms. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be brief. Our proposal is appropriate in size. This is an improvement aesthetically from that which exists today. The proposal conforms to the neighborhood, and this proposal will also enhance the neighborhood. And I will leave it with that and respectfully request this board act favorably on our application, and we thank you very much for your time.
So my thoughts are initially when this application came in, I was a little skeptical about it, but I was familiar with the neighborhood. I've been through that neighborhood many times. And I knew that many of the lots and properties on there were non-conforming. So I really appreciate the additional testimony you gave tonight. It really brings all that into focus, all the non-conformity into focus. And given that, and given the lot size of 6,500 feet, and that it will enhance the property and the neighborhood, I would be in favor of this application, but I'm welcome to hear what other people have to say. Any other board members wish to say anything?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd be happy to say something because, like you, I was very hesitant about this at first because it's one thing to say, well, this has a setback violation, this is a setback violation, but if you look at the scale, the massing of this house compared to the property and the others, it's large. But I want to say that I put a lot of credence in the testimony of the neighborhood and the neighbors. And I think that that's very important. And like, you have to look at it. It is at a dead end and it is a beautiful home. The architecture is very nice. And I was the one behind getting some architectural standards in the township. So I'm very happy with this. And so all things considered, even though I think it's massive, if the neighborhood is happy with it, then I'm happy with it.
And any other board members with comments?
Just that the comments, the analysis that was done, spot on.
Yes.
That was very helpful. We don't usually see something that presented that way.
Right. And like I said, it brings it into focus. It really did. So can I have a motion on this application?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve this application based on the testimony and information provided tonight. I think it's going to be a good addition to the neighborhood.
I'll second.
Ms. Santiago, roll call.
Mr. Goldberg,
Yes.
Ms. Rothman,
Yes.
Mr. Trachtenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. Benoit,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Woodford.
Yes,
So
Thank
moved.
you very much.
you're welcome. Thank you. Okay, get this out of the way. Next is BA-23-23. Santiago.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is application BA 2323, block 8303, lot 4, 70 Glen Road in the RA 15 zone for section C. Patrick and Megan Luciani.
Puccignani. It's a
Luciani.
tough one, yeah.
Okay. Applicant proposes a second-story addition creating a side yard setback of 11 feet where 20 feet is required. Applicant will also seek a variance for expansion of a non-conforming structure.
Okay,
Hi, to the board members, my name and Mr.
Okay,
Hanson.
will you both be testifying tonight? Yes. Would you both please stand? I'll swear you in at the same time.
Great.
You solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. And for the record, would you identify yourself?
Sure. Patrick Lucignani, I'm the homeowner, along with my wife Megan, at 7 Old Glen Road.
Douglas Oswald, architect.
ASR AL. And Mr. Osral, are you a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, I am.
And have you appeared before this board before?
I have about 10 years ago.
Yeah. And,
Recently before Madison.
and your license is current?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
We'll accept you as an expert. Okay, you may proceed.
Great, thank you. I was saying, good evening to the board members, Mr. Hanson. Just briefly, I introduced myself. I'm Pat Lucignani. My wife, Megan, is also a homeowner. She was unable to come today, but she sends her regards. I have 2 children in the school district as well, and a dog. And I think this is why and it's a 3-bedroom house, 1.5 bath, so kind of outgrowing it. So my wife and I spoke, and we put this off for many years. Then COVID hit, and we're friendly with Bob Bennett, who's our contractor, and we decided to go forward and seek solutions to maybe expand the house. This house was built in 1940, the colonial. It's a beautiful house up towards Madison Ave. I'm not sure if you've driven by it, but it's small. It's a smaller home. What we're proposing is to just simply not add on to the footprint, but just add an addition over the family room. Now, the family room was many decades ago a garage, actually, and that was converted into a family room. So what we're proposing is to flatten the family room and just add an addition. So spoke to our contractor. We submitted the permits, and that was denied. We find out that we're in compliance with 3 sides of our house, but the one side on the side setback is less than 20 feet from the border of the house. I believe we're at 11 feet. So this must have been non-conforming, is my understanding. Maybe it wasn't, but there is the structure there, which is the family room. So that's what we're seeking. We're seeking a variance to build up. And there's 3 considerations I would just like to say. One is that, as I mentioned, we're not changing the footprint. We're just adding essentially a room on top of the family room. The second consideration, it's the height of the addition remains the same. It doesn't go higher than the height line now that's existing. And the third consideration, we're not encroaching. We're not asking for more space on the side setback. It's essentially the same, since we're not moving the footprint. And to the extent it helps, I did speak to our the neighbor whose house it's affecting. It's 9 Old Glen Road, and he's like, hey, listen, go right ahead. It's great. I'm all for it. I'm not even.
What's that person's name?
David Rodin, Rodin. I'm not sure if he travels a lot for work. I'm not sure if he's able to attend via Zoom or not, but I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago about it. So in essence, it would be adding a room, and I believe the plans and the pictorial, the graphics were submitted to the town, and really it looks great from the street. It would add, it fits into the character of the neighborhood as well. We think that it's not going to be this monstrosity, since it's really just adding on top of the existing family room. One other note is that I don't have the number of a house on Old Glen Road. It's definitely on the odd side. It's closer down towards Woodland, that did something similar a year or 2 ago. I'm not sure if they needed a variance, but they expanded and they added, an addition up top. And that was, I can submit to Sonia. I can submit that address. Oh, how
Yeah.
long?
4 or 5 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thanks, Nancy, yep. It was a while back, and so, and it fits in nicely into the neighborhood. So, essentially, that's really what kind of we're here to say, and we thank you for your consideration, and if you have any questions for our architect or contractor.
Well, we'll hear from the architect in a minute. But,
Sure.
You indicated at one point you're gonna are you gonna take down the existing family room? Or just a build up? Because one time you said flatten. and I
No,
just-
no, right. It's a cathedral ceiling, so.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't- Yeah, I didn't mean, yeah, so we're just essentially, we're just adding, but right now it's a cathedral ceiling on the family room.
So there's no garage on this property? is there?
No garage.
And do you have plans for a garage in the future or?
I don't think there's room. Yeah, a garage would be great, sure, but no.
So this is not going to encroach any further than what's already existing. And that was built in 1940, so that would pre-exist the zoning ordinance.
Depending when in the 40s, 45 was our first zoning ordinance. So if it was early 40s, there was no zoning in the town.
Okay.
And I don't know what this zone would have been back if it was 48 or 49. I don't know.
Board members, any questions of this witness? Members of the public, any questions of this witness? Okay, let's hear from the architect. What he proposes.
Good evening. Yeah, 7 Old Glen Road it has a certain hardship in that the building is placed in such a way on the property that if it had been, maybe it was pre-ordinance, but it could have been placed entirely within the setback limits. But because of its circumstances where it's placed right now, we have a side yard of about 11 and a half feet on the left side. It complies with every other restriction. This is the one restriction it doesn't comply with, it's pre-existing non-conforming. We're not seeking to go any closer, just going straight up on top of the existing structure. The neighboring structure at 9 Old Glen Road to the left is at a distance of 42 feet away from Mr. Lucignani's house. And in terms of the spirit of the setbacks, a 20-foot setback requirement means about 40 feet between houses, which these two properties would still maintain. So we're requesting that you see this this master bedroom addition over an existing structure favorably, so as to enhance life for the Lucignani's.
Board members, any questions? Members of the public, any questions of this witness? If not, close the public portion. Anything else? Any comments you wish to make?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Board members, any comments on this application?
I think it is a perfectly reasonable application. I think that they're not really changing. As they said, the height of the cathedral ceiling will now instead be living space. I really feel like they're not asking us for very much at all here. And this is a modest addition that will make the house much more functional. So I'm for this.
Do I have a second? I take it that's a move to approve.
That is a move to approve.
Second.
Move to approve. Second?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Santiago?
Mr. Goldberg.
Yes.
Ms. Ruffman.
Yes.
Mr. Trachtenberg.
Yes.
Mr. Schuster.
Yes.
Mr. Benoit.
Yes.
Mr. Kramer.
Yes.
Mr. Woodruff.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, next is BA 24-23, Ms. Santiago.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, next application is BA 2423 Stephanie Horman, Block 3907, Lot 12, 163 Western Avenue in the RA11 zone for Section C. Applicant proposes construction of a 22 by 40 foot two-car garage, creating a side yard setback of 3.72 feet where 15 feet is required, and a height of 24.25 feet where 15 feet is allowed.
Yes.
Good afternoon, or good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Mark Blount, appearing on behalf of Ms.
Okay, Mr. Blount. Who will be testifying tonight?
I have three witnesses this evening. First, Ms. Horman will testify, give you a brief overview of the property and her intentions. Next, we will have our project architect testify, Mr. Byrne, and lastly, our project engineer, Mr. Horley, will testify.
Okay.
All right, why don't we have them all rise up, raise hands, and we can do it all together. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And just, if you would each just identify yourselves for the record.
My name is Stephanie Horman.
Thank you.
Byrne is BY.
BY. Okay.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may, as Ms. Foreman testifies, in order to put this application in context, this is an application to reconstruct the garage that was destroyed. So what I'd like to do is offer up 3 photographs that will show what was there before, have Ms. Foreman testify to those, and then we'll get to the professionals as to what it is that we're proposing. What I've done, Mr. Oler, is I've taken one set, put on the back A1, A2, A3. I'll have Ms. Foreman identify those, and I have 2 other sets for each end of the podium. Thank you. For the board to follow along.
Thank you.
Ms. Foreman, if you would give the board a little bit of a brief background on you, your acquisition of this property, and a little bit of the history of it, if you know.
Sure. I've lived in this house with my husband for over 40 years. I love the township. I'll just say that. I raised my son here in the township. And I acquired the house, and it had a 2-car garage with storage above it. And it was basically a farm property, I believe. It was built in 1907, so it's pretty much a historic property. It's a very old house, and I love it. Back in 2014, we had a major snowstorm, and the garage collapsed.
And sorry, what year was that?
Excuse me?
Which year?
2014.
14.
The roof collapsed into it, and I'm seeking a variance from you to rebuild the existing garage that was there with a few minor adjustments.
Ms. Foreman, if you would, can you describe for the board what is depicted in the photograph marked A1?
Yeah, this was the original garage. You can see that it was a 2-car garage, and above it, there was a barn door, and that was a flooring there, hardwood flooring, and we stored all kinds of containers based on the picture that you saw once it collapsed. So it was all storage, and we used it. Our house is unusable for storage. We have a finished basement. Our attic is finished. That's our master bedroom. And the second floor has 1 full bath and 2 bedrooms. So the house has no storage basically, and we have no garage at this point.
Thank you. And if you could describe what appears in photograph marked A2.
Yep, this is it, which was the garage, and we would pull in. The doors were smaller, it was built in 1907, so the garage was smaller, so we had a smaller car in there, but anybody that has an SUV or a larger vehicle couldn't pull into this garage because the doors was just too low. So, but we use a ladder to get up to the stairs, up to the second floor. But now we would like to have stairs inside, so we don't have to hoist all these containers above our head for storage.
Thank you. And Ms. Horman, if you would describe what's depicted in A3.
This was a very sad day when it was a beautiful day, but we woke up and shot out of bed when we heard this crash. The walls just caved in from the weight of the snow. It was a very heavy snow, and all our belongings were there was a lot of damage. So we're very upset about it, but hopefully after tonight, we will have a new beginning.
Thank you. And just so the record's clear, it is not your intention to ever utilize the second floor of that garage for residential?
No, it's strictly storage.
Thank you. Those are the only questions I have for Ms. Foreman at this time.
Can I ask, what have you been doing for storage for the last 9 years?
I'm going to say this, but I think my husband will be upset. We've been using Chatham Moving Storage for the past 10 years.
Okay.
So I think we're about due for a garage.
Okay. Now, yeah.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
This proposed garage is significantly larger than the prior garage.
It's actually smaller, but you guys can
Yeah,
speak
you
to
tell
that.
us about how large the original garage was.
Was 904 square feet, and now we're proposing, I believe, 890. I mean, the guys can speak to it.
Mr. Chairman, I believe our professionals can give you the.
Yeah, but I was just like wondering because like the survey shows remains of a garage and then a pad in front of it. And I was just wondering, was that whole pad part of the garage?
Yes.
Okay, that's where I was confused because it
Yep.
looked like you were doubling the size of the
No.
footprint of the garage. And I wanted to make that clear.
I left the foundation when it fell because I knew we were going to rebuild eventually. So yeah, the foundation, there's still part of it there. But yeah, it's actually smaller, a little bit smaller.
Okay, thank you. Board members, yes.
The denial of permit from engineering said the original was that this is 22 by 40 and the original garage had dimensions of 20 by 22.
Yeah.
So there's a distinct, this is half, you're saying they're doubling it.
Right.
She's saying they're reducing it.
Right. Understanding that there was a garage foundation in the back and a concrete slab in the front, and seeing the pictures, I now see that the entire concrete footprint that was shown on the existing conditions was a building, one of its foundation, one of its slab. Now the whole thing's going to be slab, I'm guessing.
It was confusing. to me.
Yes, so
Thank you.
that was just brought to light. I was going to bring it up
No problem.
before it came to me.
Read this.
Somebody does.
Any other board members with questions? Any members of the public with questions?
No, I have a question.
Okay.
So, do you have any plans to have any utilities in the new garage?
No, just electric. That's what was originally there, was electric, nothing else.
Okay.
No plumbing.
No plumbing, no water,
No
nothing,
heat.
zero, just
Okay.
electric.
Okay, so if the board were to approve this, you would agree to a condition that indicated there'd be no plumbing
Yeah, oh,
in the
absolutely.
building?
Yep, just electric.
Okay.
Want to have an electric door, that's okay.
You don't want to pull it up all the time? Mr. Hanson, any questions?
No, I'm fine. That size of the building is confirmed now. It's going to be just a hair different than what previously existed, so it's fine. There's no stormwater management that's required.
How about the height? Do you know the height?
The height is going to be higher than what is permitted. I don't know what existed.
Oh, okay.
I'm just going by the ordinance at that point. The existing, well, our garage height maximum is 15 feet. They're proposing 20.85 on a ground averaging around the building. Back's going to be a little bit
This
out of the
looks
ground.
taller
Front's
than
going to be a little bit similar to that probably. And they showed a cupola or a cupola on the roof. That's exempt from the height requirements.
So Dave, I had a question about the height. On something I saw 24.25 feet, but when you average it 20 feet off per ordinance, it's actually 20.8?
20.85, yeah.
Okay.
And our engineer and architect will go through the exact calculation. 20.85 is the.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Ms. Whitman, thank you. Mr. Byrne. Carla, would you like me to go through his qualifications?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Just briefly.
Byrne, if you would provide the board with the benefit of your professional and educational background.
Just one second, I'm going to turn that microphone on.
Mr. Blunt, can you please use the microphone? We're recording the meeting, okay?
The handheld. No, yeah, you. So we get every important word you say.
So again, my name is William Byrne. I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey. I've been licensed since 1994. My office is in Chester. Let's see, I've appeared before this board many, many years ago. It's been a while, but I have appeared before other boards in Morris County, and I do pretty regularly get accepted as an expert in football.
And your license is currently in good standing?
Yes, it is.
Who accepts as an expert in architecture? Please proceed.
Thank you. So again, I think the photographs were very helpful for me in the redesign of this structure. As Ms. Horman has mentioned, you know, the home and the property itself is just a beautiful historic property. Again, being in Chester, we do a lot of work in that area. We do a lot of work with these types of homes and especially, you know, carriage houses. It was a fairly common you know, dependency type building in this era of these homes. And it's nice to see, it was nice to see that one was still, you know, fairly well preserved. So our goals in the redesign of this, again, based on the existing footprint, more or less, was to design something that really inspired the carriage house feel from those previous photographs and just offered a few different enhancements to try to make it a bit more functional for today's, you know, uses. As Ms. Horman had mentioned, the previous garage doors were a bit tight, a bit small for access. What we've proposed in the new design is a single width door, so it would be a 16-foot door instead of two individual doors. But fortunately, door manufacturers and styles have come around, and the door style that we see here, this carriage house style door, which actually looks like two pairs of doors, you know, nicely blends with the aesthetic of the building, and I think offers a much more functional point of access for modern day cars. You know, again, similar to the photograph, you can see that we've got a higher gable with softer and lower plate heights on either side. So the attic storage or the loft storage that exists above the garage bay would have full height in the center and slightly less height to the sides. And that's really the predominant view of the structure, the top left of our drawing. That's the view that you'd see as you come up the driveway, and that's the view that would be most visible from the Horman's residence. The side elevations in both cases reflect the fact that the lot is quite quite sloped in this area. We're not really proposing much change to the grade, and again, the engineers can testify to that. But, the height at its highest point would be at the front where the garage doors are, and as the property slopes toward the rear, the building becomes quite a bit lower. We've added a man door to the grade height at this back section that does allow us to have an interior stairway to take us up to that loft storage, which we think is a nice feature, certainly a convenience to have available. The exterior, it finished in a vertical siding, very similar to the appearance of the original structure. We've got some enhancements that we've added. We've got a little bit of a side gable roof over the door, which again just breaks up some of the massing. We do have the cupola on the main front section, which we think has a very nice appearance, and again, very period correct, possibly something that the structure may have had at one point. We've got gooseneck lights shown various locations, again, typical and consistent with the architectural style. And we do have a little bit of a metal standing seam shed roof over the garage doors, again, to break up some of the vertical emphasis of that front facade. This presentation is actually what's been submitted, so these aren't
Yeah, I was just
different.
going to ask you, Bill, and there's been no changes to what we have, right? So I'm not going to mark these.
That's correct. Yeah, no changes here.
Okay.
So again, the garage elevation, this lower level elevation, 22 feet in width by 40 foot 10. Again, the 16-foot single door, providing much nicer, safer access for cars. We've got the stairway shown beyond the point where we would have those cars stored, and we've got some slab level storage at that elevation as well. So we've got some good main level storage. The stairs go up half a flight to that door that we showed coming out to the yard area, and then another half a flight up to what would be the storage loft shown to the right on the page. Again, the height changes as we go through just based on the roof lines, but good usable storage and I think a nice enhancement for the property.
Thank you, Mr. Byrne.
You're welcome.
I have a question. Yeah, on that exhibit, sheet one, it almost looks like the rear, and if the upper left elevation, front elevation, it almost looks like the traverse roof line is higher than the regular roof line. Is that accurate, or
At this point, it is about 12 inches higher.
12 inches higher? Okay.
About 12
So it's
inches
not-
higher.
It's not substantially higher, it's just slightly higher.
That's correct.
All right. And how does this height compare with the original garage? Did you make any comparisons like that?
I had no record of the height of the garage, so we based it on really just the best we could determine from the photographs that were provided. And in our opinion, this height is similar to what was there. It may actually even be a tad lower from what we could tell, but it doesn't appear that it would be higher.
And how will this garage, where it's presently located, and maybe I should be asking the engineer, fit in with the contours of the hillside?
Again, I'm sure the engineers could probably do a better job than I, but the slab that's there now, those elevations, I believe are to be retained. We're not really proposing a change of what was the garage. The driveway that enters that garage is not changing. What we see here, which is the view from the Horman's yard, again, they have a beautiful lawn area. There's really no changes proposed here. There are some beautiful stone retaining walls that appear on the engineer's drawing. Maybe period to the house, or certainly quite old and quite beautiful. And that network of walls is not being proposed to change. So there's really no site work, I think, that really would be required based on this, or nothing substantial. But again, the back of the garage, as I had noted when we were on site, really, exists at a point where the grade then continues up toward the property line, pretty dramatically. As it gets toward the back of the property, the topography gets a bit steeper. So again, there's not necessarily a change proposed here, but we think it'll fit in very nicely with the existing contours.
Board members, any questions?
Yeah, I see there's a passway between the garage section and the storage section on the first floor. Is there a door proposed for that, or is it just an access way?
It's a 6 foot 8 inch wide trimmed opening, so there's no door that's proposed. It's just an arched opening.
So does this need to have a fire stop between the garage and the storage area? Or,
I would say something, no.
okay, because it's not living quarters?
Right.
Thank you.
It's no different than you putting stuff in your garage now. They're just doing it on 2 levels.
Understood. Thank you.
Any other questions by board members? Any members of the public with any questions? Okay. Go on to the next
Thank you,
witness.
Mr. Barner. Next, I'd like to call Mr. Horley to testify. Mr. Horley, if you would, provide the board with the benefit of your educational and professional background.
Sure. Good evening, board. I received my engineering degree from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in 1991. I received my professional license from the state of New Jersey in 2002, and it's been in good standing ever since.
Thank you. And you've appeared before other boards?
Not this board in particular, but other boards in Morris, Essex, and Passaic counties.
All your licenses are in good standing?
All my licenses are in good standing, yes.
Accept them as an expert in engineering.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Horley, if you could walk the board through the project, providing a little detail on the existing conditions and then the proposed improvements.
Yeah, the engineering for this project is rather benign. We tried to utilize the existing footprint as it existed for the new structure. So there's no impact to stormwater management or any of the surrounding areas outside of the footprint of the building. The request for variances today is for the side yard setback. The existing facility was a non-conforming structure before the collapse. And the new building will be similarly requesting a side yard setback variance of 3.72 feet. Right. The second variance being requested today is the building height, which has already been discussed. Calculating the building height 20 feet off the perimeter at 20 feet calculations. Because of the sloping of the grade, the rear of the building only has a building height of like 14 and a half feet. I could check that exactly. The rear of the building is going to be 14.19 feet in height, and the front of the building is going to be 25.8 feet in height. But the average, when you calculate it across, is 20.85 feet is what we're requesting for the building height ordinance.
Is that measured to the top of the roof or the middle?
Again, it's measured from 20 feet from the building to the building height
To the top
at
of the
20 foot.
peak?
Yes.
To the peak?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it excludes the cupola, correct?
It excludes the cupola at this point, yes. All right. Again, with no plumbing or other utilities in the building, just electricity. As I said, the engineering for the structure is fairly straightforward. There'll be no negative impacts to the surrounding properties proposed by this project.
What about water runoff coming from the roof? How would that be directed? Is this going to go right down the driveway? Where does any water runoff go?
The water runoff will be properly managed to make sure that there is no negative impact to the surrounding properties.
Okay. Dave, is that something you would be looking at, or how would that work?
We could look at it, yeah. I was assuming that there was a building there at some point in the past, and the contributing drainage will just follow the prior path. There was no complaints lodged on runoff for this property.
Right, but I mean, if maybe nobody complained, but maybe it was running right down the driveway into the street.
Right.
But I just want to make sure we're not icing up the Western Avenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because the slab is there now, there's certainly not going to be any more runoff created by this project than already exists. And we'll work closely with the township engineers to make sure that that's the case.
Okay. Good with that, Dave?
I'm okay.
All right. Board members, any other questions? Members of the public, any questions? Mr. Hanson, any questions? No. Mr. Oler?
No.
All right, we're good.
Okay, thank you. Just briefly, I think the request that's,
Just one second. Any members of the public wish to comment upon this application?
He's my son.
Well, you might get up there, you never know.
Now's your chance.
Better not.
You can deviate if you want.
more yard work.
That was the public portion.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think overall, this is, the applicant tried her best to keep this aesthetically and functionally as appropriate as what was there in the past and make it historically appropriate to the house. And it's a greatly needed improvement that we think is a modest request for this board. So, thank you.
Yeah, when I first saw this, and I was questioning, the remains, the foundation of the garage, and then thinking you're doubling it in size, I was like getting a little skeptical. I also knew the age of the house, not exactly, but I knew it was a very old house, and I was wondering where storage was in the house itself. So based upon what I've seen and heard, I think I'd be in favor of this, but I'd welcome other members to chime in.
I'll chime in about the garage. I live in a late 1800s house, and then before that, I lived in a house from the 1920s. And getting a modern car in these garages is virtually impossible. So I actually feel like you were very conservative in just putting one garage door instead of asking us, well, it was a 2-bay garage, so maybe we could get it bigger. So I think this is very appropriate, reasonable, and having a little bit more headroom too, so that you could get an SUV in there, I think is totally appropriate as well.
My only reservation is my friend's family owns Chatham Moving and Storage. They're going to lose a customer. Other than that, I'm good.
But it'll save a marriage.
Oh, boy.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve this application.
I'll second it.
And that's with the condition, it's only going to be electric into the building, no.
That was.
Yes.
And stormwater runoff would be worked out with the engineer at the time of permitting. Right.
Okay. Those conditions, motion,
Motion.
not a second.
Second.
Ms. Santiago?
Mr. Goldberg.
Yes.
Ms. Rothman.
Yes.
Mr. Trachtenberg.
Yes.
Mr. Kramer.
Yes.
Mr. Benoit.
Yes.
Mr. Schuster.
Yes.
Mr. Woodford.
Yes,
So moved.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Nicely
much.
done.
Thank you.
Rich, did you mark those?
I did.
Yeah,
Thank you.
they're pre-marked.
Want these?
You want these?
Yes, please.
Yeah, if there's a set that I can keep, it would just help.
Thank you.
Oh, sure. No problem.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put that out. Just one item before we close up for the night. Any request by any commission in town or other witness, professional witness that we might want to have appear, would have to come through the secretary of the board. We don't want individual board members reaching out to any commission, say, the Environmental Commission, to request them to appear. Any request to appear would have to come through the board in a formal session, or have us directing the secretary to reach out to them.
Yeah, it's entirely appropriate to have, if the board has questions on any reports that are presented to the board, to ask whoever drafted those reports to appear and give testimony or answer questions. But that should come through Sonia
If we
With the
want to-
authorization of Mr. Woodford,
from the board.
from
Yes.
the chairman.
Yes.
Okay.
If we don't get a report from a particular body, but we think there should be a report,
You could
can we
request
make
it.
We can
those-
request, we can make that
Yeah.
request at a meeting. You can't
Oh,
make the
yeah, of
request-
course. I was just
Yeah.
wondering, I mean, I've never had that happen before where I've been like, where was their report? But
Mhm.
it might, it's a good point to bring up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We often have reports at the planning, board,
Right.
and to be honest with you, I don't know how they know to prepare one. I'm sure it comes through
Yeah, it
engineering
goes
or
through Sonia.
Sonia, so there's
That's why
already,
you put 16 packets together, because they get handed out to you guys.
For the planning
and then
board,
they go
yes.
to
Yeah.
the professionals.
so there is a process in place. to
There
do
is a
that.
process, especially planning board, when there's a planning board application, there's like 16, 17 package that are submitted, and they go to different departments, different committee, like the environmental commission. But not all the time I do get reports from the environmental commission. Sometimes I don't even get a response. Okay, so if you don't get, especially on planning board, you don't receive an environmental commission, they didn't submit any. Okay, not
But if the
even,
board felt like there were questions that they needed answered, it's appropriate to discuss it at the meeting and say, okay, we're not going to vote on this tonight because we want to hear from whichever
commission.
The open space
agency,
committee or
right,
whatever it may be.
is, and ask for a report if we don't have one.
With that in mind, we did get in our packets tonight, I don't know if anybody else has looked at it, a environmental impacts, small environmental impact statement for next Tuesday's meeting. And Sonia, could you forward that to the Environmental Commission for their review?
Forward that report to the environmental commission?
Yeah, because it is environmental impact.
So
So it'd be appropriate for them to see it and review it.
So I don't know if I will
Sent to
have,
us by the applicant?
yes,
Sent to us by the applicant,
yes.
and it's in our packets tonight.
I don't know if we're gonna have any feedback
But the,
before Tuesday. Okay?
well, yeah, well, we can email it to them and maybe,
I doubt it very much, but I try. I'll do it tomorrow.
okay, great.
So along those lines, at the last meeting, I think during the meeting, we had put in a request for the Environmental Commission, whether the person that wrote the report or the chair, to come to the special meeting that's been scheduled for Springbrook. And I know I followed up with an email on that. So it's
Right, you can't, you can't.
not to the board, just to you and Sonia and Mr. Aller. That's where the email went to. So I'm still waiting to hear back whether, is that an inappropriate way to?
No, you can direct it to us.
Yeah, so I haven't reached out to the Environmental Commission. I've reached out internally here within the board. And so I'm still waiting to see has that invitation been accepted? Will we plan on seeing them here next week or?
Yeah, but
Is that
that's the
re-
appropriate way is
Right,
to
and that
have
request-
Sonia
right.
deal with it because, all of your emails, even your text messages
Correct.
would be subject to
Correct.
Oprah
Oprah.
requests.
Correct,
So, you wouldn't ever want to appear to be anything but impartial,
correct.
right? So if there's a question though that the board has, is, hey, we want to hear from the Environmental Commission on this.
Right.
Just ask them and let's get them here.
Okay, so,
Okay.
Mainly would go through Mr. Woodford. Mr. Woodford would let me know. Say,
Okay.
Sonia, reach out to the environmental commission.
But it's not
For
bad
this
to
request.
CC Richard.
no, yeah, I
Richard
sent it to,
myself,
yeah, so
Mhm.
just,
Just us.
So it moves
so
along.
where does the status of that
Yeah.
request? I mean, that was submitted
They'll
initially.
be here. They'll be
Oh,
here
they will be
Tuesday.
here. Okay, thank you. That's what I was seeking to get confirmed. Thank you.
And I have a question about the process for the environmental or historic review. I know there was an issue with who can actually draft that report and sign it. How is it official? Is it the chairman? Do they need a vote of that committee?
From the Environmental Commission?
From any of these commissions, what makes it a formal?
They're appointed generally by the mayor and council or township committee.
The
here.
membership.
So,
Right.
right, so they are created, and then from their appointed members, they can select the chair.
And if they create a report based on
So if they
something,
create a report, it may be designated out to a particular person in the committee. who would then sign it. I don't know what their individual, what the commission's regulations are, or rules or bylaws, whatever they have.
Right.
But they could, I don't see why they couldn't say, hey, look, we've got 12 things to do. We've got 6 people, so we're taking 2 each. Let's look at them. And then you signed the 2 you did, but we all looked at them and said, yep, this is good to go, but you wrote it, so you signed it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
When I served on the Morristown Environmental Commission, because I was on there for 10 years, I often was the person that was delegated for reviews. And I would write them and I would report back and it would be a part of minutes, but I didn't get like the board's consensus, which I don't think you really can, because then you also become, at least in my case there, I also became a person who was testifying, right? So I'm fielding questions from the board, which of course I can't turn around to the whole board, have a mini meeting to give my answer. So we would just kind of appoint a person or a couple of people on a case-by-case basis to say, you know what, there's going to be a meeting on this, can you guys look at it, write up a report and be available to answer questions. So that's how we handled it.
It's a good amount of responsibility for somebody on a volunteer committee.
Yeah.
Right.
And unfortunately, environmental commissions do not have any regulatory or, they have no power. They're just advisory.
They just have advisory.
Unlike a shade tree
Right.
commission where they can actually, do something. So
Shade tree.
a lot of times your suggestions would get ignored.
So then what kind of teeth do these reports have?
Well, they don't have teeth. They're not intended to. They're there to give you their advice.
Information.
Advising. Yeah.
It depends on how receptive you are to their messaging as a board member for this body.
You may conclude that while it's important, it wasn't important to that particular application at that time. That's entirely within the
Or it might
board's
be, right.
jurisdiction to decide the application.
And also, when you have a good commission, they bring you ideas on how to make projects better.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, they raise ideas
Yeah.
that you may not have thought of.
Yeah, because that's their area of expertise. or should
Invasive
be.
plant species, so that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Anything else?
One follow-up question on, Samantha and I were talking earlier. So for example, an application like One Whippany Road, which is almost fully implemented now, in terms of the lighting and things that are going on there. So if we go back to the original resolution or what was agreed upon, and there's an issue or something there, what is the redress there in terms of just bring it up?
That man right there.
Yeah,
Okay.
zoning officer gets to say, hey, it said
This, that.
A and you did
Because
B.
I'm already seeing
Well,
lights
right.
on all the time. There's been
Yeah.
trees taken down during
Yeah.
construction, so.
Yeah, they did take some additional trees. down, but
Yes.
They were damaged trees. You couldn't see the damage from the road, but the
Right.
back of the tree was rotted out. It wasn't until they got into clearing that we noticed it and they asked permission to take it down. But we also told them to plant more trees in the hole that was created too. And some of that is on hold because of the weather.
Is the additional signage down now that their permanent sign is up?
I don't know.
Not yet, but I think they're allowed to keep that up for a few months while it's opening up and launching, I believe.
I thought it was just they could have it until their permanent signage went up.
I don't know. The building's
It's
not
now
open yet, from what I understand.
2 signs.
So
Is
there
the-
is a punch list on that. That was done back around Christmas time. It needs to be revisited since they did address some things. So I'll put the sign on, I'll put the banner or the temporary sign on the punch list that they.
And also the lighting, because they leave all the lights on the inside of the building on all the time.
Workers that
It's-
don't know how to turn lights off.
Could be.
I was there Sunday at 6 and it was like a glowing ship as you drove down the road.
Is the lot on that opposite corner, Dave, is that in the township? Because that's for sale? That's also, that's,
The one on the other side of Windsor.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's for sale.
Doesn't that have any?
That has an approval.
That has
That
an
was an
approval. It's
approval.
been extended a couple of times, right?
Yes.
Right. It was just extended for another year. The guy's having money problems. He's having partner problems. So they are looking to sell the project.
Oh,
All right. Any other thing? Any other business? If not, a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right.